if also that the year advisors or whoever it is could really understand what's going on for that child. And so when the child turns up with the wrong socks on, to just go, you know what, honey, it's okay, and we'll get you some socks. Like, or when the child doesn't turn up for 4 or 5 days, to take the pressure off the child and to help them realize that, you know what, I can imagine what you're going through is really hard. Because the pressure on the child, we see it all the time, is just heartbreaking. And I think if we could find a way for the schools to really understand that better, and especially, we're talking homelessness there, but if we're talking domestic and family violence, what children get to see on a daily basis, and the trauma and the triggers. And so, for example, if another child bangs down a ruler on a desk and that child jumps, it's triggering their trauma, and all of a sudden that child starts to play up in class. It's really important to kind of have a look at the big picture about what's happened.
If you suspend a child who is unaccompanied and homeless, where does that child go? And what happens to them? To the local drug dealer's house for the day? Do they sit in the local park? Do they return home where there may be significant domestic violence or drug and alcohol use issues amongst adults who are in that space? If you had a clear understanding of what children and young people live through when they're homeless, it would be clearer that the school system is simply not responsive enough to their needs, and yet could play a really key role in keeping them engaged in a space that's not only safe, that may provide food, heating, shelter for that 6 hours. But beyond that, of course, what we're talking about is future-proofing kids. The role that schools can play in homelessness prevention and early intervention. As a teacher, it is not your responsibility to solve homelessness alone. It's definitely your responsibility, but it's not your responsibility alone. Perhaps this is a conversation and the staff have as a group. What are the supporting services for our families, children and young people in our school community? How can we work better with them to ensure our shared goal of child and youth wellbeing is met? As teachers, you're contributing to educational wellbeing of that child, but in order to achieve that, you will also need that child to be fed and being cared for. And so there's a whole lot of people that need to come around the wellbeing of that child. And your part as an education provider will not be successful unless those other components are also in place.